Welcome back to The Instant Fame. This script is based on publicly reported accounts of Sally Field's career and alleged conflicts with fellow actors. While inspired by real events, it is a fictionalized dramatization for entertainment purposes only. No copyright infringement is intended. Oscars. Decades of unforgettable roles. A reputation as one of Hollywood's most beloved actresses. But behind the applause and heartfelt performances lies a side of Sally the public rarely sees. A side that remembers every betrayal, every insult, every co-star who crossed the line. Now, with the weight of age and wisdom behind her, Sally Field is finally revealing the names of the 6 actors she hated the most. These weren't petty spats or fleeting disagreements. These were deep, bruising clashes, some on set, others behind the scenes, that shaped the course of her career and haunted her long after the cameras stopped rolling. You might think you know Hollywood, but this list will change everything. Let's begin with the heartbreaker, Burt Reynolds. Their romance was tabloid gold, Sally Field and Burt Reynolds, the power couple of the late 70s. On screen, they were electric, charming, playful, irresistibly charismatic. Smokey and the Bandit became a cultural phenomenon in part because their chemistry seemed so real. But behind the curtain, the truth was far more unsettling. Sally once called Bert controlling, a man who thrived on dominance and dismissed anyone who threatened his spotlight. Even her. He constantly belittled her, mocked her looks, questioned her intelligence, and diminished her acting ability in subtle but cutting ways. He'd offer backhanded compliments in interviews, then return home to icy silences or passive-aggressive remarks. In her memoir, In Pieces, Sally peeled back the glossy Hollywood veneer. She revealed how Bert wouldn't allow her to speak freely, how he'd interrupt her mid-sentence and override her decisions both professionally and personally. He wanted her next to him, smiling, silent. She described feeling like a prized possession, something to be shown off, not someone to be cherished. Worse, he manipulated her emotions. One minute he'd be charming and affectionate. The next, he'd withhold love as punishment. Over time, her sense of self began to erode. Even at the height of her fame, she often felt invisible when standing beside him. "I never felt truly seen," she admitted. "I was there, but not me. Not the full me." Despite the years they spent together, Sally later confessed she was never sure who the real Burt Reynolds even was. The man the public adored was not the one who came home at night. And yet she tried. She gave everything she could to make it work. "I wanted to love him. I did love him, but he hurt me. He may have been the bandit to the world, but to Sally, he was heartbreak in disguise, and he was only the beginning." Next, the egotist, Tommy Lee Jones. On the set of Backroads, Sally Field arrived with high hopes. It was a gritty, offbeat script, a chance to dig into a character with real depth. She was ready to collaborate, to create something meaningful. But instead of connection, she was met with a wall of silence. And that wall's name was Tommy Lee Jones. From day one, Sally described him as dismissive, not just professionally, but personally. He barely acknowledged her during rehearsals, offered no small talk, and refused to engage in the usual actorly back and forth that helps build trust. On a demanding shoot, he came to set, hit his marks, delivered his lines, and left. No warmth. No respect, just ice. For an actress who had built her career on emotional authenticity and open-hearted performances, Jones's behavior was disorienting. She wasn't just acting opposite a cold character. She was acting opposite a cold person. "Co-stars are supposed to lift each other," she said. "He made me feel like dead weight." Sally later revealed that she would try to initiate conversation, between takes, ask questions about their characters, even crack light jokes to ease the tension. Jones wouldn't bite. Sometimes, he wouldn't even look at her. "He treated me as though I didn't belong on set with him," she said. as if I were beneath him. Critics panned Backroads when it came out, citing a lack of chemistry between the leads. What the public didn't know was that the problem wasn't the script, it was the emotional chill between takes. We were supposed to play two broken people learning to love, Sally once said, but I was playing alone. Though she remained professional throughout filming, she admitted the experience drained her. The set wasn't just cold, it was isolating. For Sally, who thrives on connection, that kind of emotional distance felt like sabotage. After Backroads, she never worked with Tommy Lee Jones again, and when asked about the experience in later years, she never lashed out. But the subtle frost in her words said enough. She never forgot how cold a set could feel. But not all her feuds were silent. The scene stealer, Robert Blake. During their time filming Say Goodbye, Maggie Cole, Sally, Field came face to face with one of the most volatile personalities she'd ever encountered. Robert Blake, known for his intense method acting and erratic mood swings, didn't just bring unpredictability to his performances, he brought it to every corner of the set. From the start, Sally struggled to find rhythm. Blake would change. Lines without warning, go off script mid-scene and sabotage carefully planned takes by throwing in unscripted behavior. What might have seemed like creative spontaneity to him, Sally saw as pure chaos. She accused him of undermining her at every turn, not just in front of the camera, but behind it as well. Worse, his behavior wasn't limited to her. Crew members reported frequent outbursts, verbal tirades, and sudden mood shifts that created a hostile environment for everyone involved. One day he'd be quiet and focused. The next, shouting at a lighting technician, or storming off set over a minor disagreement. Sally, already balancing the pressures of a demanding role, found herself playing peacekeeper just to keep the production afloat. But it was a losing battle. The tension bled into every scene, and the cracks soon became impossible to hide. Eventually, the project collapsed. The film was shelved before it ever made it to air, a casualty of on-set dysfunction that had spiraled out of control. For most actors, that would have been a professional setback. But for Sally, it was deeper. She later described the experience not just as disappointing, but traumatic. There are actors who act, she said, and there are actors who try to make everyone else small so they feel big. Blake was the second kind. The words weren't just sharp, they were personal, and they carried the weight of a woman who had endured more than just artistic differences. She walked away from Say Goodbye, Maggie Cole, with one vow. Never again would she tolerate chaos disguised as genius. The unexpected villain, Dustin Hoffman. To the public, Dustin Hoffman is a legend, an actor synonymous with excellence, with roles that earned him Oscar gold and critical reverence. But to Sally Field, he was something else entirely, not a mentor, not a collaborator, just a bitter disappointment. They never co-starred in a feature film, but their paths nearly crossed in the early 1980s during auditions for a now-forgotten project that never made it past development. For Sally, it was supposed to be a promising opportunity. Instead, it turned into one of the most demeaning experiences of her career. During the chemistry read, Sally said Hoffman dominated the room before she even walked in. He cracked jokes with the producers, made pointed remarks about the script, and when she finally began her reading, he interrupted multiple times, not to help, not to collaborate, but to correct her delivery, comment on her choices, and question her interpretation of the character in front of everyone. She wasn't just being critiqued, she was being humiliated. In Sally's words, it felt like auditioning for a man who'd already decided you weren't enough. She described feeling like a schoolgirl, not a 2-time Emmy-winning actress who had already proven herself on stage and screen. The sting deepened when, later that week, she heard from a mutual contact that Hoffman had bragged about sabotaging the audition. He reportedly said the chemistry wasn't there, and that he'd made sure of it. To Sally, that wasn't just unprofessional. It was cruel. It took time for her to make peace with what happened. For weeks, she questioned herself, wondering if she had somehow fumbled the opportunity. But with distance came clarity. The problem hadn't been her performance. It had been Hoffman's need to control the room, to prove he was the smartest. Man present, even if it meant stepping on someone else's voice. She later called it one of the most humiliating moments she'd ever endured professionally, and it changed her forever. From that point on, Sally made a vow. No more working with men who mistook arrogance for genius, and she kept that promise.